Alright. Oh, I gotta get audio going. What up? How goes it? Aditya, Slayer, my bros. Trying to hook up my headphones real quick. Right. You know what I hate? I hate how they make the on like earbuds, they make the right and left like with signals so tiny and hard to find like where it's at. Oh, there it is. Right. Dang, dude, I got some earwax in these things. You guys ever check your earbuds and just notice that it's just the grossest thing of all time? Just months of your earwax just building up in there. Just nasty. And you just put it right back in your ear because you're just like, what is? Actually, that's not even, what am I doing? I'm a psycho right now. I don't even know what's going on. I'm not setting this up right. What's up, Lavanya? Lavanya, I don't recognize your name, actually. It's a cool name, though. Lavanya. I'm a fan of your name. I'm all discombobulated with my cables. So that disconnects, and then this goes in here. Okay, we're on track here. We're on track. Freaking look for the right versus left signal. There it is. All right. All right. Aditya, if you were asked for a definition of evolution, what would it look like? What do you mean? What do you? I don't quite understand your question. What would it look like? Like, what would the question look like, or what should your answer look like? Clarify. So there, you broke your earbuds because it filled with too much wax. Clean it, man. You gotta. You gotta be like a regular cleaner. You gotta get in there. You gotta pull off. So what you gotta do is you gotta pull it off, right? Pull off the little rubbery piece to expose the actual little speaker there. And then you gotta just work that wax off. You gotta wax it off. Take it off. Gotta do that regularly. Earbud maintenance. Key points you need to include in the answer. Well, you definitely want to include the fact that evolution is a process of adaptation in which populations of organisms, their traits are changing over time in order to adapt to the changing environment. If I were to ask you for something like a genetic kind of definition, you want to include the idea that it's the traits, yes, are changing. So the physical representation of those traits is changing over time. It's evolving. But what's happening underneath that, right, is the frequencies of the alleles that code for those traits are changing over time as well. And so they're increasing. The allele frequencies are increasing over time. You know? So that would be more of a genetic thing. What up, Neilkanth? You're confused on the rat snake vis because I don't know what to write for the I and the S. rat snake vis. Oh yeah, let me pull up. I forget what the question was. Let me pop that up. Let me pop it up. What do I need to go to? I hear you, Neil Collins. You don't understand what the selection pressure is? I just have to refresh myself with the example, so I'm going to pull up the document, and we'll take a peek. I'll put it on stream. I'll pop it up on the screen. Where is bio period 7? All right. Got it. So let's pull, it was under the VIS level A examples. Whoa, come on now. Let's see. Let's go. Where is this one? Rat snake. Number 2 here. This one. You guys see that? It's probably a little pop. Let's zoom it up. So rat snake. The coloration of rat snakes have changed according to their location. They can be found with yellow, black, orange, and green colorations according to where they live, and live all over the eastern half of the United States. Okay. So, what up, Sanvi? All right. So I will say that this example is a little vague because it's not really giving you a lot of information, right? It's not telling you, it's not giving you information about what the colors, what specifically the colors are useful for. Right? But what you would probably, the best thing you could probably say here with the information that you're provided is something along the lines of that the selection pressure would be the environment in which they live. So it would be the actual habitat. So you could imagine maybe, I'm not giving you, this is not a great example to be TBH about it. Not great. So what if we added, let's see, what could we add to this to make it a little bit better? What if we said like, the coloration of the snake is camouflaging. How do you spell camouflaging? Camouflaging. Into their environment in order to avoid being seen by their prey. So now I think that might help you a little bit, right? If I give you more information about what the coloration is useful for. So if you were now, now you could answer that the selection pressure would be the selection pressure in this case, now that I added this, is probably going to be something along the lines of like excuse me, those snakes with coloration that helps them camouflage more are selected for because the selection pressure is the ability to get food more. So access to more food, more resources, because they're less likely to be seen and spotted by the prey, so they're able to probably get more, catch more prey. So the selection pressure is the extra energy they're going to get from the food that they can acquire. Let's see what else. What's up, Charvy? Thanks for stopping in. Okay, so Mahit, you're talking about why did the light moths die in the first example? Yeah, so let's see. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, peppered moths existed mainly in light colors. After the Industrial Revolution, the majority of peppered moths were darker in color, right? So what happened, I guess, again, it's not giving you enough information, but the idea is that, like, the tree bark became darkened during the Industrial Revolution due to coal soot that was deposited on the bark. So obviously this is another camouflage situation. So before the Industrial Revolution, a light color was beneficial because it blended into the light bark. But as the Industrial Revolution progressed and the tree's bark became darker because of the coal soot, darker moths had an advantage. So the selection pressure was, the selection pressure is the predators. Predators are selecting the lighter colored moths, selecting against the lighter colored moths, and selecting for the darker colored moths. Right? So this is an example of a predator selecting for a certain coloration and against another coloration. Actually, they're not really selecting for darker moths in this case, they're selecting against lighter moths. What else? What do we got on here? Let's see. Charvy. So fitness is how many of that animal, not how long they live. Yeah, so fitness is not just how long they survive, but how many offspring they have. So one organism is going to be more fit if it reproduces more, if it has more offspring, if it passes its genes on more. Yeah, Aditya, that's correct. You got that right, Aditya. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. So Neil Conth, the selection pressure would be for the coloration that blends in the most. So the selection pressure would be in favor of whatever color would blend in with that environment. So like it would be the yellow might be blending in with foliage that has yellow leaves, yellow background. Black might be a darker area. Does that make sense? What's up, Meenakshi? Lavanya, hello. Mr. Gans class, nice. Could I explain the difference between gene flow and genetic drift? Gene flow is so here's a good picture of gene flow. So gene flow is when you have two populations, right? So let's say you have a population of green bugs and a population of yellow bugs. Gene flow is when those two populations actually mix together. So like this yellow bug right here is quote unquote flowing, but it's going over to the green population, and it's bringing its genes, right, its genetics with it, and it may be reproducing with the green bugs, and it's introducing its genetics to the other population. So what it's basically, the idea is that there's a connection between the two populations, and the genes are flowing either in one direction or in both directions. Right, so that's gene flow. It's when you have exchange of genetics between two populations. The reason why gene flow is important is because over time, you cannot evolve two separate species if they're mixing together like this. So if the genes are flowing back and forth between two populations, there's not going to be any speciation occurring because they're just constantly mixing together to remain the same species. If you block gene flow, right, if you do something like this, right, in this example where you have like a mountain that blocks the ability of the two populations to mix, and there is no gene flow, then you get evolution. Or sorry, you don't get evolution. You could potentially get speciation over time. Genetic drift is a little bit different, and genetic drift is more of the idea that over time there's a random change. Let's see if this is a good image. No, I don't like that image at all. Oh. So this is a good one. Genetic drift is a random change in allele frequency. So within a single population, so we're not talking about two different ones, but just one population of organisms. If the allele frequencies, right, change, but there's no real reason for it to change, it's not like the environment is selecting certain alleles because they're advantageous, we call that genetic drift. So it's any random changes, just completely random. We call that genetic drift. If the changes in allele frequencies are due to a selection pressure in the environment that is actually selecting for certain genes, then we call that natural selection. Right? So you can imagine that the allele frequencies in a population may change over time, either completely randomly through genetic drift or non-randomly through natural selection, because the environment is actually quote-unquote picking certain alleles to survive. All right, hopefully that was helpful. I missed a few questions here. I'm going to continue. Really a big fan of how you guys are helping each other, like answering each other's questions in the chat. It helps me because then I can kind of I can kind of skip the ones that people answered correctly and catch up a little bit easier. So if you feel like you got an answer and you want to help someone in the chat, throw it in there. I would say if you're not 100% confident on your answer, maybe don't pop it in there just in case it's wrong. Although some people can correct you, and I'll correct it if I catch it. What else? Tarun, what up? You asked what are the 5 conditions for genetic equilibrium to be satisfied. Did anyone actually tell that? Yes. So Mahit got it. Yeah, Mahit nailed it. So hopefully Tarun, yeah, you got that. Good. A lot of people nailed that. Keep in mind that genetic equilibrium is completely not really a normal thing in nature. Very unlikely. Thanks Aditya and Mahit for correcting Neelkanth on his gene flow interpretation. That's good stuff. Thanks Meenakshi, that's good. Good definition. Good stuff, Meenakshi. Gene flow is just one species of an organism migrating and intermixing into the other population. Yeah, two different species of two different populations of the same species. Yep, Sanvi. The stuff I asked, the stuff we went through today on the yellow sheet, that's all the fair game for the quiz tomorrow. Jarvie, what are you saying? This is completely random, but what if two animals are split from each other by a river, so geographical isolation, and the animal can just swim across to the other side? Then it wouldn't be geographical isolation. It has to be actually be an effective way of stopping them from getting to each other. So if those two populations, those two groups of organisms are split, but they can still swim across, then they're not really isolated. So it doesn't really count as geographical isolation. Good. Nice. Is convergent evolution when two populations with the same trait evolve to have different traits? No, not quite, Mahit. It's not. Convergent evolution is when you have two unrelated species that have evolved a trait that has the same function as each other's traits. So the example I gave in the worksheet that we did was the idea of actually, you know what a better example is? It maybe makes more sense. Is like a fly has wings, so does a bat. They both have wings. The wings serve the same function to fly. But a bat and a fly are not related. So it's not like a bat and a fly share a common ancestor that has wings, that they both came from. They both came from other organisms over time that evolved wings separately. So the wings were evolved separately, but and serve the same function. Aditya, yeah, all living things do have a common ancestor. Right? You can trace everything back to like an original organism at the very start. Everything, yeah. That's just a tree of life, right? I wonder what will come up if I type in tree of life. No, nothing. Just pretty pictures. Okay, looks like I'm all caught up. So I think I want to look up, like, there is complete tree of life, complete phylogenetic tree of life. They do exist, and they're pretty crazy looking. What's a good one here? So like this is the complete tree of life. Oh, it's interactive. So yeah, all of the known species that we've ever discovered, we take their sample of their DNA and we make this giant tree of life that plots them all in terms of how closely related they are based on their DNA. And so this one I think is, how do I access it? Oh, I have to download it. Oh wow, so it's like a curved tree. It's so big that you have to kind of curve it. Whoa, what is that? Wigglesworthia. There's some interesting species in here. Wigglesworthia brevipulpus. That's one species of, like, looks like bacteria of some kind. But this thing is so massive, like if you zoom in, all these branching arrows. This one's a little bit harder to interpret. Yeah, this one's crazy probably. Jasmita. What up, Jasmita? What type of selection pressure do antibiotics fall in? Directional? Yep. Directional. Yep. Okay, good. Thanks for helping Tarun with his genetic drift question. Can't really. Oh my God. Yeah, the tree of life is crazy. Like you can't even like fit. It's so big you can't even fit it anywhere in one thing. Oh, is this the actual one? Dude, look at that. Oh my God, look at that. Look how gnarly that is. That's the tree of life. Oh my God, look how small it gets on the edges. So you could trace it back to one ancestor that branched out and turned into all these different categories of plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, protists, archaea. Oh my God, look at this. You can actually zoom in on this thing. Dude, look at how tiny it all gets. Let's zoom into some animals. Oh, we're over here. Let's take a look at us. It's not, the resolution is crappy. Oh, there it goes. It takes a while for it to like adjust. We're over here somewhere. There we are. Can we even see? Zoom in like 240% just to see humans. Let that load up a bit. Founder effect. Did anyone answer founder effect? Founder effect. The founder effect, so here's the thing with the founder effect. It's, you guys kind of got it, but not 100%. Let me pull up a little picture. So, founder effect. So here's a good image. Let's pull this to the other side of the founder effect on the left of this diagram. So the right shows the bottleneck effect, the left shows the founder effect. So the founder effect is basically when you have a population and you take a small subset of that population and it migrates or moves to somewhere else and starts a new population, right? And notice the difference between the original and the old. So there's this effect on this population. This population, as it grows, is going to be way more, a higher percentage of blue individuals than yellow, because from the original population, the sample we took was not really representative, right? If you look at the original population, it's more blue, but you know, I don't know, like if you just guess percentage, maybe it's like 20% yellow. But this new population is going to be less yellow, and that is the founder effect. So this new population is going to be affected, and it's going to be more blue, and it's going to be affected because the original founders were more blue than yellow. Whereas the bottleneck effect is similar, but a bottleneck effect is like this idea that there's some sort of event that happens where a lot of the organisms are killed off and only a few survive, right? And the ones that survived, typically it's not like it's random that they survived. It's not like they were selected for. They just survived because of a random event that they got lucky enough to survive. And so the ones that survived are going to have the same idea, like they are now the founding the members that are going to try and repopulate and they might not represent the original population. So if you look in the bottle, right, at the base, the original population had a bunch of different colors. But the ones that survived that event, maybe it's like a big environmental change, like a disaster that wipes out a big chunk of the population, the ones that survived only have 2 colors. So the new population is going to look very different than the old population. So this is considered a bottleneck. There's no such thing as a bad question, Tarun. I appreciate you asking them. Don't feel bad about it. No need. What do we got here? What else? What else? What else? What else? Dark matter. Climate change is real. I'm talking about climate change in apes right now. I was watching some climate change denial videos just so I could remind myself of what the arguments are against climate change. To buff up on it. I was watching some YouTube videos before I started the stream. Jasmita, you want me to go over VIST? That's a good one. I can go over VIST for antibiotic resistance. So let's just run it down. So for VIST, the antibiotic resistance, let's see. Let's start with V. So variation, right? Let's say you have a population of bacteria. They are not all exactly the same. So even though bacteria reproduce asexually, and so they basically create clones of each other as they reproduce, their mutations happen, right? So you're going to have some bacteria in a population that have some mutations that make them slightly different than other bacteria in that population. And so you could imagine you have a population of bacteria in which some bacteria are a little bit more resistant to antibiotics than others. So that's the trait, is the ability to resist being killed by antibiotics. So you could imagine, right, on a scale of like 1 to 7 days, in a population of bacteria, you have some that are really, really weak, and like on day 1, they're exposed to the antibiotics and they die. Then you have some that are a little bit stronger, and they could maybe survive 2 days. Then you have a group that are like maybe even stronger, can survive 3 days, and some that can survive 4, right? So and on this scale, so there's variation in the ability to survive being exposed to antibiotics. So that's the V, right? So some bacteria have mutations that allow them to be slightly more resistant to antibiotics than other bacteria. Right? Now that gene or that allele that allows them to be slightly more resistant, this is the I part, is heritable. You can pass it on. So when that bacteria reproduces, right, asexually, the bacteria that comes from that bacteria is going to get that allele, get that gene as well, will inherit it. So the resistance, the ability to be slightly resistant to antibiotics is a genetic trait that can be passed on. Now, the selection pressure. In the case of antibiotics, the selection pressure is the antibiotics themselves against the bacteria. So the antibiotics are selecting against the weakest bacteria. Right? So the antibiotics will kill the weak, but the strong will survive. So therefore the selection pressure is the antibiotic itself, and it is selecting against the weak bacteria. And so the stronger bacteria survive and reproduce. And so as a whole, the population gets stronger and stronger as the weaker ones die and the strong ones reproduce and survive. So the whole population will evolve to become more strong against these antibiotics. And the time piece, the T part for this, the real important factor here is that bacteria reproduce very quickly. They literally can have a generation every day within 1 day, sometimes less. Some bacteria reproduce in like 12 hours. And so they don't need as much time to evolve because they reproduce so fast. And so what you might want to say for something like T for this would be that because bacteria reproduce very quickly and have short generation times, they will evolve quickly and they don't need much time to evolve resistance to antibiotics. Hopefully that helped. That would be my way of going through a VIST kind of thing. Alright, so I'm probably going to have to catch up a little bit because that was a long explanation. So let me peer back into the chat here. Otis, for the breeding bunnies thing, there was this question: how would the results be different if the bunnies had longer time? Are you sure that was the question? Can you? I don't know if that was the question. I don't know. It seems I don't remember that being the actual question. For the breeding bunnies thing, there was this question: how would the results be different if the bunnies had longer time? Well, the longer the time is, the more the selection pressure is going to act. So you would probably see the allele frequencies change more and more and more, become less and less. Thin fur allele, more thick fur. Hey, Ansh. I did go over that one already in the chat or in the stream. It's in the beginning there, and it looks like someone outlined it pretty well. But essentially, the idea is that the moths, that the dark colored moths are going to blend into the soot more, the tree bark more after the Industrial Revolution, so that they're hiding from their predators. So the selection pressure is the predators, and the predators are selecting for or selecting against rather the light colored moths. Aditya, most of the arguments against climate change have to do with trying to discredit the climate models that the scientists are using. So a lot of the arguments will have something to do with like they're using inaccurate parameters in the models that predict how the climate will change, and a lot of it is just sort of downplaying the humans' impact. But you have to remember, most of the scientists that are denying climate change, turns out if you look into them, they're actually being funded by fossil fuel companies like oil and gas companies. And obviously oil and gas companies are the main source of the increase in the temperature on Earth because of the CO2 that's emitted from using their products. So they have an interest to not have, they have an interest to deny it because it'll help their profits. Oh, just if there's a longer generation time, then what's going to happen is essentially there's not going to be evolution is going to be slower. So the longer the generation time, the slower the evolution will occur. Where are we at here? I'm trying to find. Let's see if I missed some stuff. Kaushal, what up, Kaushal? How are homologous and analogous body structures evidence for evolution? They just kind of present the art. It's basically like showing like, so the idea is that if you have an organism like a whale and an organism like a human, right? So you have a human and a whale. Whales have flippers or fins. Humans have arms. Very different functions. A fin is really good for swimming. An arm really good for grabbing things, throwing things, manipulating objects. Right? So very different functions. But if you look at the actual structure of a fin of a whale and a human arm, they have the exact same number and location of the bones that make them up. Right? So the structure of a human arm and a whale fin are very similar. It's just that the bones have been elongated in certain spots and shortened in other spots to change it into a fin instead of an arm. So that provides evidence that if they have such similar structures, we must have come from a common ancestor that they have diverged from over time and evolved and had our appendages slowly change to adapt to the environment, one adapting to make it shaped more better for swimming, and one making it shaped better for being a human on land and manipulating objects. So if I show you a picture, they throw in the bird wing here as well, but notice that they have the same kind of the same functionality. Especially the bird wing has lost some of the bones in the tip, but if you look at the best example really is the whale and the human arm, right? They both have this pink bone at the top, then there's two bones below it, and then there's a bunch of these little orange bones, and then these bones here, so they align. All right, where are we at? A lot of questions popping up. I think I'm missing some, but hopefully people are answering these. Let's see. Tarun, did anyone answer? Yeah. For the inheritance part of the antibiotic vis, would you just say that bacteria inherits genes from asexual reproduction? Not from crossing over. No. Bacteria reproduce asexually. There's no crossing over in asexual reproduction. That's only in meiosis, which happens in sexual reproduction. So bacteria do not get any crossing over. They inherit it just from that asexual reproduction. I'm kind of off, actually. I went further back than I meant to. Mahet, yep, the test is going to be, there's some matching in the test, and then some multiple choice, and then the A level at the end. You guys talking about containers and stuff all of a sudden? Sanvi, what is the difference between directional selection, directional stabilizing, and disruptive selection? This would be a good to show the graph. So these are the graphs that I grew, or the graphs that I grew, oh my god, the graphs that I drew on the board that one day. But like you can imagine, this is the idea, is that the fur color varies, right, in this population, and then over time you could have fur color could change in a number of ways, in 3 different ways. 1, the middle color could be selected for, so a more middle shade could be advantageous and get selected for, which means the very light one and the very dark one are going to be selected against, and so the most of the population will start to become more middle shaded. So you can see that the graph kind of sucks in on either side and gets taller in the middle, meaning there's more middle shaded. That's called stabilizing. Directional selection is when one extreme or the other are selected for. So in this case, in this situation, they're saying the darker color is selected for. So over time, it shifts towards darker fur. So more mice have darker fur, the lighter fur is selected against. That's directional selection. And then finally, you could have disruptive selection, which is when both extremes on either side of the graph, right, like the light and the dark, are beneficial and selected for, whereas the middle shade is selected against. So what you get is this double hump graph situation here. So it dips in the middle because there's not that many organisms in the middle, but a lot of light and a lot of dark. That's what we're talking about with the different types of selection. Okay, let's see. Bradley, you hold on, wait, Ansh, in the second vis, is the selection pressure the environment? Yes, exactly, Ansh. The selection pressure is the environment. I don't know why I decided to have a French accent right there. The environment. The selection pressure is the. I wish I could do accents. That'd be awesome. It'd be so fun if I could do accents. I love watching YouTube videos where people like do all the different, like a bunch of different accents in a row, and they're like super technical and really good at them. Bradley, what is horizontal gene transfer? Horizontal gene transfer. It's basically horizontal gene transfer is, it's almost, think of it like as bacteria's way of having sex. Sorry, I don't mean to get crude. I don't mean to get a little saucy with this stream. It'll be a saucy stream. But basically, bacteria can actually exchange genes with each other. And it's kind of like bacteria having sex. Where's a good picture of this bacterial sex? Sorry guys, this is not safe for school to look at some bacterial sex. This is a little bit raunchy here. Some bacterial sex. So basically, no, this is too much. That's too much. That's not what I want. I want a more simplified situation. This one's not bad. Let me zoom in on this thing. So, dude. Review image, that's all I wanted. Alright, so here is your two bacteria, right? So let's just play the story out. You got bacteria 1 and bacteria 2. They find each other attractive, and they want to get closer, and they want to share genes, right? And they want to take their relationship to the next level. We're talking getting intimate. We're getting connected here. So what happens is the bacteria can actually form a bridge between each other, and genetic information can slide through that tunnel into the other bacteria from the first bacteria. And so now both bacteria have a copy of that plasmid, of that little ring of DNA. So these rings here are DNA, are genes. They have information that would give them a trait. So this is a good example. Like, so for example, let's say that this bacteria is resistant to antibiotics because they have this orange plasmid. There's a gene on this plasmid that codes for a protein that makes them resistant, right? So it's possible for this plasmid to get transferred to another bacteria to make it resistant as well. And so this is called horizontal gene transfer. It's called horizontal gene transfer because normally when we talk about gene transfer, it transfers from one generation down vertically to the next generation. In this case, these two bacteria are in the same generation, transferring genes horizontally to each other. It's how bacteria can exchange genes. Fell behind big time in the chat. I'm catching up to you guys. I'll see you in the future. I'm catching up. I'm in the past of the chat right now. All right. All right. I'm caught up. Yes, Ansh, for the last question. Let's look at the last question on this one. Is this the peacock one? Females always choose the male with the brightest colored feathers. A few thousand years ago, not all males were brightly colored. Now these are rare. Yes, this is sexual selection. This is females choosing the males with the brightest colored feathers to reproduce with. So it's a sexual selection situation. So the female peacocks are the selection pressure, selecting for brightly colored males. Let's see. Kaushal, what conditions promote rapid speciation and evolution? Strong selection pressures. So if the faster the environment changes, the stronger the selection pressure, the quicker the organism will have to evolve. If the organism reproduces faster, it's going to evolve quicker. So faster reproduction. What else? That's pretty much it. Oh, sexual reproduction would increase the rate over asexual because there's crossing over meiosis. What up, Mr. Chang? Nice to see you. I thought you were gonna be. I figured you'd be snoozing right now. Yeah. Woke up from your nap there. Popped in a little bit. And you got first in the competition. Congrats, dude. That's awesome. Good for you. Okay, I'm getting a little thirsty, so I'm gonna have to grab some water here. It's been an hour. I've been streaming for an hour, so I'm gonna grab some water in a sec. So if you have questions, just hold them for a minute. What color? What color should I make my water? Erlenmeyer flask is coming out. It's been a while. That thing has been on my shelf for a while. I'm gonna bring it out. What color water am I going for today? What makes sense for an evolution quiz? For some EFG, the Erlenmeyer flask gang color. Black? Are you emo, Charlie? It's black water. I don't know if I'm comfortable drinking black water. That makes me a little nervous. I'm not on board with it. Purple? A lot of people saying purple. Orange. Peacock water. That'd be cool if I could make it rainbow. Like I could layer the water to have like different layers. Though I could do that if it was not just water. I'd have to have like oil, water, alcohol, like different solutions so that they'd have different densities. Maybe I'll do that for the spring final exam one. Bust out the rainbow water. Get crazy with it. But then I have to drink. Then I'm drinking like all sorts of weird stuff. That doesn't make sense. All right, it looks like I'm getting consensus on orange. Going with orange. Maybe I'll do black later, Charvy. I don't even know how to make black. I guess I just have to mix together all the colors I have. Yeah, so we'll see. I'll be right back. BRB. All right, I'm back. Went with the orange. It's not bad. It came out a little darker orange than I was hoping for. I was trying to get that nice goldenrod color that I made the packet, but couldn't quite get it. Just a little bit off. But cheers. Here's to me dying of early age because I drink so much food coloring. Watching like in like 20 years, there's gonna be a study that comes out that's like drinking food coloring gives you cancer. You guys talking about football? I see Broncos, Patriots, 49ers. I'm a Patriots fan because I grew up in Vermont, which is in New England. So, but people always accuse me of being a bandwagoner because I don't live over there anymore. What we got here? Dark matter to get black water. Save all the water you used to wash your front steps with and put that into an Erlenmeyer flask. Grind in some ashes and some powderized rock. Enjoy with an ambulance. Okay, man. Actually, you know, I don't have front steps. I don't wash them. I live in an apartment, so I could just make some like mix together all my colors. Maybe that would do it. Yeah, I'm connected with Ethernet. I'm not Wi-Fi. I don't have Wi-Fi because it's on my desktop. Maya, how can I be a Pats fan? This is what I grew up with, dude. This was before they were good, too. This was in the 90s. I was a 90s child, product of the 90s. So, like, I grew up when they were not that great, before Brady. I remember wanting to watch all the football games when I was, you know, probably in, like, elementary school, like, 4th grade and stuff, 3rd, 4th grade. But I couldn't stay up that late because on the East Coast, right? You're lucky living on the West Coast because all the sporting events start early for you. But on the East Coast, it's 3 hours ahead. So if a game starts on the West Coast at like 5, it's actually starting at 8 o'clock and not ending. So a lot of football games weren't going to end until like 11 p.m. And I had to go to bed. So my dad would always write down the score of the Patriots game on a like piece of sticky note or something and leave it on the table in the morning because he got up early. So I get to see the score. What show are you watching, Charlie, that has someone that looks like me? People say that all the time. I get that a lot. Like, you look like this person, and it's always super racist because it's just straight up like just a white guy. It's just like a white guy. Like, oh my God, you look so much like this person, and I look at it, it's like that's just a white dude. So that's racist, and I'm bored with it. All right, Kaushal, what is your question? You got an actual question for me. All right. Oh, you're also asking how Tarun is asking how common Mercer is. That's a good question. Let's turn to the old internet. How common is Mercer? How common is Mercer in the nose? What? Why is that the most researched phrase? In the nose. MRSA is carried about 2% of the population, although most of them aren't infected. MRSA infections are common among people who have weak immune systems, are in hospitals, nursing homes, and other healthcare centers. Approximately 5% of patients, Or I just said I saw that somewhere. Something about 5% of patients in hospitals. Yeah, how common is MRSA? 5% of patients in U.S. hospitals carry MRSA in their nose or on their skin. Oh wow, on their nose. So apparently the nose is a common spot for MRSA. What's going on? Let's look this up. Around 1 in 3 people carry staph in their nose, Staphylococcus aureus. But that's not necessarily MRSA. That might not be the resistant form. Interesting. Kasha, what was your question? Can you explain how small populations are affected by genetic drift? Yeah, so it's just they're more likely. When you have a small population, random events have a bigger impact. And so because genetic drift is random changing of allele frequencies, if you're a smaller population, any random change is going to have a bigger impact on that small population than it would on a large population, right? So imagine a random event is going to affect a small population much more than a big population. So it's just a matter of just the size makes it more impactful. You got some videos? Nice. Mr. Chang, I'd love to see that. I'll see guys how you guys nailed that competition with the first place finish. Robert Sheehan. Oh my God, let's take a look. Dude, already? Absolutely not. I look like this person? Dude, I think the chat needs to straight up say no. Do I really? I'm not. Again, I don't know. It's hard whenever I see a picture of someone that's supposed to look like me, it's hard for me to really see it. What else? What else is the question? Tarun, what is the difference between MRSA and staph? So MRSA is like just a really strong version of staph. So staph is like a bacteria that is super common. It's on your skin, it's in soil, it's found everywhere. But the MRSA is a version of staph that's evolved resistance to a lot of our antibiotics. So it's just like a buffed up, like OP staph. Aunt, you can't tell the difference? How dare you? How dare you? Dude, everyone in the chat's going against me right now, and I'm not on board with this. How dare you all turn on me and just basically tell me that I look like this dude, or that he's an evil version of me, Meenakshi? At least, hey, at least I'm the good side. I'm the non-evil version. I'll take that. All right. So it looks like things are dying down a little bit in the chat as far as questions involving biología. Ooh, dark matter. That's not a bad idea. I do have turmeric. Actually, I have this this powder that I mix with milk sometimes. It's got turmeric, ginger, and cinnamon. And I mix that, and that would make it a nice orange color. Tarun, what are other very dangerous superbugs? Good question. Let's look some up. I don't even know. I do know that there's some strains of gonorrhea right now that are becoming resistant to our antibiotics. Gonorrhea is like a sexually transmitted disease. That one's pretty rough. Let's see. What are some superbugs? Medical definition. Here's this. Let's go to the CDC's, the most unwanted list. These are drug-resistant bacterial and fungal infection that are labeled by the CDC as urgent, serious, or concerning, reflecting how dangerous they are and difficult to treat. All right, so let's go down. Clostridium Difficile. The CDC threat category is urgent. Let me make this bigger for you guys. It's urgent. Death estimate 15,000. Causes severe diarrhea and can damage the colon. Okay. Carbapenem resistant enterobacteriaceae. What's wrong with, what does this one do to you? Yeah, here's the gonorrhea I was talking about. Multi-drug resistant Acinetobacter. This is like, causes pneumonia, urinary tract infections. Drug resistant Campylobacter. Diarrhea, cramps, fever. Yeah, look at all these. There's a lot. I wonder if Mercer's on the list. There it is. Methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. There's Mercer. Ooh, there's drug-resistant tuberculosis out there. Rough. Wow, the list got a lot. A lot to be worried about. Let's see. Surya. How do you determine the selection pressure? How do you determine the selection pressure? You just have to kind of like, in the example, you have to look at what is actually causing the species to evolve. What is the force? What is actually selecting the organisms that survive or selecting the organisms that die? So for example, in the case of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, the selection pressure that's causing the bacteria to evolve resistance to the antibiotics is the antibiotic themselves. So the antibiotic medicine is the selection pressure because it's what is actually selecting and causing the change. It's the factor. It's the environmental factor that's causing the change and therefore causing the evolution. So you just kind of have to read the scenario and kind of figure it out based off of that. Yeah, Charvy, when we talk about what determines a species, typically we just say if two groups of two organisms do not choose to reproduce with each other, we call them different species. So like let's see if we just look up what the definition of a species is. Yeah, see, in biology, a group of living organisms consisting of similar individuals capable of exchanging genes or interbreeding. Let's look at the Wikipedia article. So here's the problem. It is difficult to define a species in a way that applies to all organisms. No one definition has satisfied all naturalists, yet every naturalist knows vaguely what he means when he speaks of a species. Generally, the term includes the unknown element of a distinct act of creation. Okay. Basically, yeah, like it's not very clear cut what a species is, but essentially we can kind of get the basics of saying as long as the two groups cannot reproduce together, we'll call them separate species. It's a little more complex than that, but for our sense, we'll just leave it there. Yeah, Mr. Hajarian makes his own yogurt, Meenakshi. Let's see. Tarun, if antibiotics are the cause of the dangerous bacteria, how do we really stop bacteria from becoming drug resistant? So I was kind of explaining this in my class today, and the idea would be like, it's kind of inevitable in a way. Bacteria are always going to get more and more resistant, right? It's kind of inevitable. So there is that problem. Bacteria are just going to evolve resistance over time. But we can slow it down by using antibiotics in a better. So that means we have to use antibiotics in a way that's more specific. So the way I was kind of talking about it in class is like, if you're going to use antibiotics to treat someone with a bacterial infection, you need to wipe out all of the bacteria and not leave any of the strong ones behind, right? So you have to go all out warfare on these guys and just leave no survivors. Because the more survivors you leave, the more that they'll evolve resistance. But your question's is a tricky one. It does, it is eventually they're gonna become obsolete, these antibiotics. Sanvi, what is the difference between punctuated equilibrium and genetic equilibrium? So they're very, very different. So genetic equilibrium is the idea of a population of species that does not evolve because their genes aren't changing. They're sort of just staying the same, right? Punctuated equilibrium is when you have a species that evolves really quickly and then slows down over time. So it evolves and then slows down and then evolves quickly again and then slows down and then evolves quickly again. Whereas genetic equilibrium is just no evolution at all. Okay, looks like I'm all caught up with some questions. You guys are quizzing each other now, which is sweet. What time is it? 8:45. All right. This thing never ended up loading, so I could never see. Homo sapiens are right there, but they're just so blurry. All right. Ooh, I'm getting a little bit tired. All right, Charvy, yes, that is true. Morphology is the physical traits, the way something looks. Okay. Looks like things are really dying down here. People have kind of had their fill of questions, which seems fair. It has been an hour and 15 minutes. So I think actually kind of cool. I got the drama department that put on SNL give me a $50 gift card to Steam for doing SNL. I gotta figure out what I want to buy with it. You want to go over the second one? Yeah, we can go over that one. Oh, the rat snake one? Actually, let's look up what a rat snake is. Oh, art snake? No. So this is a rat snake. See, they come in different colors, gray, green. But yeah, so basically this one, basically what you want to talk about is that the location in which you can find these snakes is going to have different colors, right? So obviously, like, there was initially some variation in the coloration of the rat snakes, right? Some rats had slightly different colors than other rat snakes. And then that coloration is genetically determined, so it can be passed on from one organism to the next. Or sorry, one generation to the next. That's a genetic trait. And the selection pressure is the location, right? It is the background. It's sort of a camouflage situation. So the idea is that the coloration of the snake is a useful way of camouflaging in order to avoid being seen by their prey. So the selection pressure is it's the prey, right? And their ability to catch the prey if they can blend in more. That would be the selection pressure. So they are being the snakes that blend in the most are selected for because they're able to get more food and survive and reproduce better. And then over time, the timepiece, you just have to imagine enough generations will have passed that these snakes have lived in this environment so that they could have adapted to finally blend in. What's Jackbox? What up, Blue? Didn't see you there. Thanks for popping in, my dude. What's up, Raindrop? Nice to see you. Yeah, congrats, Charvy. You did well on that time check for sure. Jackbox is basically a game where it gives you prompt and you can get other people, like viewers, who can play with their phones and answer it in a simple way. Oh, so like it engages the viewers of the stream. That's kind of cool. That's not bad. I'll look up that right now, actually. Let's take a look, because I'm kind of running out of games. Let's see. Jackbox Party Pack. Not right now, dude. How much is it? $30? Dude, okay, we get it. So these are the games that come with it. Pop culture trivia mashup. Split the room. Which of these games is the best? Which one seems the most interesting? Okay, Mr. Chang. Yeah, send it. I'll take a look at it. Send it my way. I'm trying to watch it tomorrow. Dark matter. The A stands for adaptation. Right, so if this is satisfied, then the organism will adapt. Raindrop, not many questions this year. Last year was so different. Yeah, so I think the way you have to think about it, Raindrop, is the fact that the streams are more popular with freshmen than they are with juniors and seniors. And I only teach one biology class this year. I teach one freshman class and 4 APES classes, which are mostly juniors and seniors. And juniors and seniors, they're not. They're doing their own thing. They don't really. They're not as into the stream. They're not using it as much. Whereas the freshmen are much more on board with it. So like, basically what I had last year was 3 bio classes and 2 APES. So I had 3 times as many freshmen. So a little bit of a different demographic this year for me, which makes sense as to why there's less people on the stream. Amoeba Sisters? You guys are all about the Amoeba Sisters videos. What is up with that? I know they have decent videos. Actually, one second. I wanted to look at this game real quick. So you were talking about game 3 is known the best. Madverse City. The lyric writing game, Madverse City. Huh. Five is a close second. Zeepeldome. Three is known as the best. Oh, like the Party Pack 3, you mean? Like if we go to... Oh, whoa, it has different games. Oh, see, what I thought when I looked at this, I was looking at these Party Packs. I thought it was like Party Pack 5 because it came with all 5 games. This one came with 4 of the 5, 3 of the 5, but they all are actually different packs. And you're saying that the Jackbox Party Pack 3 is the most well-known? is known as the best, 5 is a close second. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, maybe I'll look into this. $25. Use my gift card I got. Quiplash. Oh, I've heard of Quiplash. Trivia Murder Party. Guespionage. TKO. Faking it. This Quiplash one I think is really popular, right? Alright. Am I the only teacher teaching apes next year? I don't know. It's just going to depend on how many sections of apes are required. Like if there's the same amount as this year, like if it's still 4, I'll probably be the only teacher. But if it goes up to like 5 or 6, then there's going to be another teacher that's going to get on board. I don't know who it would be. Might be somebody like Mr. Gann, or I don't know. He would make the most sense. Mr. Gann would make the most sense to step in as a second teacher, but I'm not sure. But I would say if I'm making a guess, I'll probably again be the only teacher. I'm trying to start a process of getting, here's my real goal for the next year or two. What I want to do is get a psychology class started on campus, because I think I'd have the most interest in teaching a psychology class. Like apes is okay. Like honestly, apes is not my passionate subject. And so I think if I could teach something like psychology, which I'm actually more interested in, that would be cool. But it takes a lot to get a class going. The other thing I have to think about is, do I want it to be an AP psych class or just a regular psychology class? Probably regular. I think AP psychology, I don't know. The problem with psychology is that technically it falls under social science, not on science. So that you would be getting social science credits for a psychology class, not science credits. So it wouldn't really compete with other science classes. So like you could still take like AP Chem at the same time if you take psychology, right? Because you wouldn't have to double up on your, it wouldn't, you wouldn't be a, it wouldn't, it just, yeah, it was not a science class, so it'd be separate from that. So you're taking a psychobio class and psychoanalysis. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I think for me, if I could, like my favorite area of interest, just for myself personally, like what most fascinates me to learn about is evolutionary psychology, like how humans have evolved to interact with each other, and their brains have evolved, and like all the problems that occur, especially like modern day, like our brains are not really equipped to deal with living in giant cities with thousands of people that we don't know that we interact with every day, and all the stresses of like a society that we live in now, because our brains haven't caught up to that evolution. We've not lived in this kind of environment. Mostly we're used to living in small tribes of like 100 people at most, where we know everybody, we're very close with everybody, we have deep connections with them, and our brains are used to that. And so I think all of these like mental disorders and things like depression and anxiety that we're seeing at such high levels are due to us not being equipped to live though in the situation in cities, and like in especially now with social media and the way we connect with people online. It's bizarre. Like our brain is not equipped to deal with that. It's so strange. And like I love the idea of studying that kind of thing, like how humans, the psychology of how humans deal with modern life. Right? And so it doesn't surprise me that the rates of suicide are high, that the addiction is high, that anxiety is high, depression is high. It's like our brains, we're not used to this. Like we're supposed to be living in a very small group of people we really, really know well. We all have our purpose and our function, and we you know, we feel like when we belong and all that, and I don't know, it's just bizarre. You guys are still wanting to play the video. Yeah, I'm almost at 500 subs, Onslaught. I'm at 497 last time I checked. I'm trying to get back, so I'm trying to get back to the amount of subscribers I had for my original channel. So the original channel that I had started a couple years ago had 600 and something subscribers, like 650, something like that. And then and then I realized that channel was actually the district Google account, and so I didn't actually like own the channel, and that kind of made me feel like a little uneasy that I had all my things that I had made, all my videos were being posted on a channel that wasn't technically mine, but it was the district's. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to just bite the bullet on this one and just migrate over to a new channel. So you lose all your subscribers and you lose all the views on your videos. And so I'm trying to get back to that 600. Because if I had stayed at that original channel, I'd probably be close to 1,000 at this point. And actually, I'd be over 1,000. Well, no, not quite. I'd be close to 1,000. I'd be creeping in on 1,000. But whatever, doesn't really matter, actually. All right, so you guys still want me to play that video, Genetic Drift Amoeba Sisters? Edgar, I know that game. Civ 6, I played it. It's really fun. I like it. I've always liked the Civilization games. I've been playing Civ since, I don't know, what was the first one I played? Like Civ 2 maybe? Let me see. Let me remember which one I played back in the day. The series. What was when did the first one come out? Whoa, back in 1991. The first one I played was probably Civ 2. Yeah, dude, look at the graphics on Civ 2. Look at that. Actually, let's look at Civ 1. The original game. But yeah, Civ 6 is good. I played it a little bit. For me, the problem was, at a certain point, I got bored with it. Did I get over 500? Made it. Made it over the 500 mark. Creeping closer to my goal. My goal is 1,000, the 1K mark. I would be close to it if I hadn't had to change channels, so we'll see. But I'm not like, I don't really do much to get subscribers. I just kind of like, I don't know, kind of hang out. Kind of hang out and let them flow when they come. So Edgar, what's the Gathering of the Storms DLC? Like, what does it add to the game? Would it be, is it like a big update so that like, if I was getting a little bored with the old game, would it refresh it for me? Would it make me like play a lot more? Okay, so you're Gathering Storm adds natural disasters, New World Wonders, governors. There's now World Congress. Okay. Cool. I might be worth checking out. If I get bored a little bit and I'm looking for a new game, that might be the route I go. Might be the route I go. Oh. No, I can't offer extra credit for subbing. No. I like that suggestion though, Meenakshi. Okay. Let me think. What are we, so I guess at this point I am, let's see, are we gonna, so I think that looks pretty good. I might call it a night here if things have kind of died down a little bit. What do you guys think? Looks like Mr. H is streaming too right now. Charvy, I don't think I'm going to play that on the stream just because it's people can watch it if they want to watch it. Sorry. I appreciate your enthusiasm for the video though. Onslaught, you got CS? You mean like CS is in Counter-Strike, right? See you, Meenakshi. Thanks for stopping in. Have a good night. Looks like Aditya left too. People are kind of trickling out at this point, maybe. Okay. Kapalua Beach. Yep, Mr. H streams. He does review sessions on a live stream. So does Miss Lerner, actually. And Mr. Gann. No, Mr. Gann does not. Okay. I'm getting a little bit done. I think we're good to go for the night. Didn't play any games. That's all right. A lot of bio questions. Yeah, Charvy. Yeah, Lerner already did. I was just saying in general she does do live streams, but just obviously not today because her quiz was in the past. Yep. Alrighty. All right, guys, I'm gonna call it a night. What do you mean, explain your Discord server? Hashtag memes. What do you mean, explain it? It's not my creation. The Discord server is not like, it's something that's a little bit out of my control to be H about it. Actually, it's not out of my control, but it's sort of got it does its own little thing. I'm looking at it right now. And yeah, there's some interesting stuff on there for sure. Like, yeah, it's borderline for sure. It's borderline. There's some good memes on there. There's also some risque memes, and there's some inappropriate things that might need to be cleaned up a little bit. But yeah, I don't really do too much with it. I just let it go. I don't know. Maybe that's not a good thing. I don't know. No, I can't show it on stream, Kirby. That's probably not a good move. Not the best move. Dark matter. What is a gene pool? Yeah. Good one, Charlie. It's a pool of genes. A gene pool is basically all of the genes that a population contains. So if we look up gene pool, let's do an image. The total number of genes in a particular population or species. All right, so here's a species of dogs. Their gene pool, it's all of their alleles they're thrown in there together. Does that make sense? A gene pool is literally just a collection of all of the alleles and genes that organisms in that population have. It's a pretty simple term. Here's someone's slide. The sum total of genes of all individuals of a genetic population constitutes the gene pool. Yeah. Mr. Chang, there needs to be enforcement. I thought there was. To be honest, I thought somebody was, but maybe that's not true. Maybe that is not true. Maybe it's a little bit lacking in moderation, which means maybe there should be Onslaught, you want to, maybe we could do that. Yeah, Onslaught, if you want to help me manage it, we could do that. I'd have to get you on there. Let me see. How do I find the situation? Let's see, who else is asking things? Sanvi, I'm gonna update grades hopefully tomorrow. I will update them. And then Dark Matter, does arranged marriage count as artificial selection? I don't think so. I don't think you can have artificial, I don't think a species can artificially select themselves. I think artificial selection is only when humans are selecting other species, not themselves. Thanks, Mr. Chang. I appreciate your input on that. Yeah, the Discord server is not something I get on that often, so I often don't think about it. So yeah. Onslaught, why don't I get you involved in a little moderation action on there? That would be helpful. So let me go to my thing. Actually, we can do this another time. We'll set it up, Onslaught. If you want to come see me anytime, you can pop in. All right, and Mr. Chang, if you want to help too, that's totally awesome. I know that you moderate that other channel pretty well. 11K, so that's probably way harder. I mean, I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know how many people are in this server that I have here. So I think that's the problem, is I'm not that I'm not up to speed on it. You know what I mean? I'm not up to speed on it. It's kind of like this thing that does have my name on it, but it's like something that I'm not really even like privy to most of the time. So you're probably right. It's probably not a good idea to let something with my name on it just sort of be chaotically doing stuff without really knowing what's going on. So yeah, I'd be down for a little bit of help on that, because I don't really have time to mod it. I don't have the time to kind of sit there and figure stuff out and like go through the whole thing. So it would be helpful to have a couple people, and if Onslaught and Mr. Chang, if you want to help out, that would be great, but not always necessary. You'll stop. Okay, yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you, Onslaught. Yeah. Cool. All right. Lunar Bird. Lunar Bird. You don't completely get what genetic drift is. Let's see. So genetic drift is when you have random changes to the allele frequencies of a population. Does that sentence make sense to you? When you have random changes to the allele frequencies of a population, that is genetic drift. Genetic drift. Oh yeah, I never really like any of the pictures of genetic drift. Let's see how Wikipedia says it. It is the change in the frequency of an existing gene variant or allele in a population due to random sampling of organisms. Yeah, so it's changes in the frequency of alleles due to random sampling. So it's basically just completely random. It's not natural selection. Hopefully that makes sense. Sometimes it's, I don't know. Slayer, you want to help too? Okay. I mean, I'm down for as much help as I can on that thing, because it's not, I don't know. I'm kind of a little confused of like what it is actually. Like, I don't know. Yeah, because like I said, it has my name on it. Like, whatever kind of things are going on, it's almost like I'm condoning it based on the fact that it's my name and my server. So I just made you a mod, Onslaught, actually. Same with you, Slayer. Same with you, Mr. Chang. One, two. Oh, I just realized. There's a couple other mods on there, but I don't think they were as active. Yeah, there's not that many people on this. Oops. Okay. So I just popped you guys into the mod status, you three. Appreciate you guys, and I guess just, you know, you don't need to spend too much time on it. Just make sure like anything that's like really risky, like not appropriate for it, should just be kind of removed, or like kick anybody that's spamming stuff that's like just not fun, I would say. Lunarbird, do populations moving in and out have something to do with it, like founder effect? Is that considered genetic drift? Founder effects, I would say that founder effect and genetic drift are kind of related. So the founder effect, they're related in the sense they're both random. So the founder effect is when you basically take a group from, like, I guess let me look up a good picture of founder effect. So boom. So here's the founder effect, right? The idea is that you start with one population here in the first circle. It's about twice as many blue as red. And then you take a sample of that group to start a new population with over here. But if you do the sample, and it's a random sample, but it just so happens to grab 3 red and 1 blue, as this population grows, it's going to look very different than the original population because the initial founders were highly skewed towards red when the initial population was actually skewed towards blue. So it's going to be random, the selection is random, and it causes this difference in allele frequencies in the new population. Kind of similar to how genetic drift is random change in allele frequencies. Hey Sarah, what's up? You've had 2 months to write an essay that's due tomorrow, and I'm here now instead of starting. Yeah, well, is that something that you normally do? Are you a procrastinator? It's a long time. 2 months, due tomorrow, and you're here now. I appreciate you stopping in. I really do. But I don't want you to be up too late writing an essay that you had 2 months to write. And anyway, it doesn't really matter, Sarah, because I'm about to log off. I'm about to end this thing. It's been, what time is it, 9:26? It's been about 2 hours. I've been on for 2 hours. That's usually my cutoff. Like 2 hours is when I start feeling like I'm good to go. Lunarbird, yes and no. Founder effect can only cause new species if you didn't have to retract it. Don't worry, you didn't have to retract that thing. I'll answer it. The founder effect could potentially cause a new species to form if these new population, let's say the ones in the right circle here, can no longer reproduce with the ones on the left. So like if they're somehow isolated, yes, they could evolve to become 2 different species. But if this population can somehow get back and start reproducing with the original population, then no, they would not become 2 species. So it really depends on if they are isolated from each other so that they can evolve like away from each other. Yeah. All right. I think that's all for me. Appreciate you all. Thanks for watching. Don't stay up too late. Study enough, but not too much. It's just a quiz. Remember, I don't think I actually said this in class, but remember, it's just a quiz, which basically means whatever you do, if you bomb it and you don't do well, you could and you do better on the exam, it replaces your quiz grade. So think of the quiz as like a practice, and you have a second chance on the exam. So don't spend your whole night nervously worrying about it. Just study for a little bit, do the best you can. I'll see you tomorrow. And that's all. I'll sign off on that one. All right, guys. Peace. Fist bump. See you guys later. Have a good night.